Okay, so good morning and assalamualaikum. Today marks our first lightning episode in eTable Talk with Sarah, a virtual panel discussion on bracing for impact, facing the turbulent economy. Yeah? So we are privileged to have the right industry panels today, leaders joining the session, and really appreciate their knowledge and contribution dedicated around, number one, economic turbulence, the period between now and end of 2021. Number two, protecting your future from collapsing, the strategy of the 21st century and AI. And number three would be thoughts on the hot speculation that we are, whether we are now in the bull market or are we diving deeper, yeah, to a financial Armageddon. So I'd like to first thank all three panelists for being here today. We have Derek Hendrikz, a master Orgtologist. We also have Brightwell Nkambule, Commissioner Modernization of eSwatini Revenue Authority, and Arvind Rampal, Principal and Founder of Performatize. So welcome, gentlemen.
Hi Sarah, hi everyone. Nice to be here.
Hello everybody, nice to be here.
Nice.
Hello everyone, good to be here.
Thank you, thank you. So just to start off with Derek, you founded the International Orgtology Institute, yeah, which regulates the practice of orgtology and researching scientific methods to work with the systems and dynamics within organizations. Just curious to know, what was the motivation to create such practice?
Sure, yeah, Sarah, the term orgtology is a combination of the words organization and the Greek word logy, meaning the science of organization. The reason I created it is when I did my MBA many years ago, I really couldn't find, you know, it was just like they threw a lot of topics into this degree, and there was very little science, holistic science to this. In other words, there's not a big picture that binds everything together. You know, if you do process engineering, people would go to the organogram and develop processes, but my belief has always been that an organization really just has one process. It has one vision, you know, therefore there's one big project going on. That's the one side of it. The other side of it is that the current thinking in managerial science is very linear. People think in lines, so everything begins and ends, and therefore dichotomies are usually measured against each other as good and evil, you know. So we would say management's not good, leadership is great, everybody should be leaders. Or mission is how we get to vision, you know, vision is what we want to achieve and mission is how we get there. So it's a very linear approach, where the orgtology approach is more dual approach. So we look at coexistence of concepts. So that same statement of mission and vision would, for instance, in orgtology be, purpose is who we are and intent is what we want to do with that. So it's the coexistence between an operational side in the organization that repeats the past and a strategic side of the organization that creates the future. We've been implementing this at a number of organizations over the last five years, and it's really working incredibly well, above expectations.
Thank you, Derek. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, now moving over to Brightwell. Brightwell, you are the Senior Commissioner, yeah, with eSwatini Revenue Authority. You're also in charge of transformation and modernization of the company. Could you share with our viewers, how long have you been in this journey?
Thank you, Sarah. I've been with this journey for 10 years now, unbelievable. It's been 10 years. Before this one, I was in telecom with a similar role, you know, driving projects. So my experience with this role is that the deal breaker, really in transformation, the deal breaker is leadership. You know, if the leadership understands the reason for the journey, it becomes easier, because, you know, the followers, as they are called followers, the followers follow the leaders. So if the leaders don't believe in the journey, the followers will not follow. You know, but what is also interesting is that even if the leaders believe in the journey, they still have to work very hard to get the followers to follow. So we were very fortunate very, very early in our transformation journey to get to understand the concepts that Derek is talking about. You know, the concept that we have to run the business and transform the business, because naturally human beings seek stability. So processes seek to introduce that stability, that order. But then your strategy or your vision then seeks to destabilize the stability in order to position the organization for the future. So this is the sort of dichotomy that is talking about, but from a different angle of running the business and changing the business. So our leaders have been in the forefront of working very hard to come up with tried and tested practices to stabilize our operations through the use of business processes, and then seeking to transform our organization through the use of projects. So continuously, it's been a balancing act, stabilizing the organization and changing the business. And our observations is that those businesses that have seek stability without the injection of change have over time become irrelevant. And again, those organizations in environment that seek to continuously change in stable environment also tend to be chaotic. So it's like organizations have to strike the delicate balance between changing and maintaining stability. Thank you.
Thanks, Brightwell, for sharing that. Now, Arvind, you have been in the business intelligence sector, for the past decade. Your last corporate post, if I'm not wrong, it was as a managing director in Qatar Skills Academy.
Yeah.
Share with our viewers here, maybe, what was it like living and working in the Middle East?
Well, it was an interesting journey. Even prior transitioning to the Middle East and working in Qatar for about 3.5 years. Even before that, we were technically still servicing the Middle East industry and Asia Pacific as well. But when you move there and you actually embed yourself in a completely different culture, it's an entirely new experience. While I was there, it was interesting to see, because the Middle East is generally a place with, in terms of the Gulf countries at least, with heavy capital injection. It's a very how would I say, inflated economy that you're looking at, through oil money and gas money and things like that. And so the dynamics at play there in terms of how businesses operate is very different from a completely free market economy that you would see in Asia Pacific, or if a business here does not have the capital injection to run for a certain period of time, the holding power, the staying power is very low, right? They will wind up in a couple of months, maybe half a year, but in the Middle East that can go on for a long while. And that goes for all companies across the board there when they come from an oil-rich background. Now, unfortunately, this pandemic has really revealed a lot of inefficiencies in these systems, right? People would think an airline, would and a national airline, for example, would be able to sustain irregardless. It would always be a blue chip holding company that people would say would be worthwhile investing in. And now what we've seen is, this has completely turned the tables in terms of what we once thought to be stable industries, education, the same. And so I catch up with my Middle East clients, fairly often. And just recently, I think a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I caught up with some of them, and they have never seen something like this before. They're completely unprepared for it. It was a given assumption that things would remain status quo for a long while. And unfortunately, that is no more the case. So I'm seeing that transition happening right now in the Middle East, and of course, in Asia Pacific as well.
Yeah, I remember having the interview discussion with Derek, and Derek mentioned that no MBA scholar has an answer towards what we are facing right now. Do you remember that, Derek? And,
yeah, very well.
Yeah, the situation is here to stay. You came back early last year, yeah, Arvind? And continued the business journey on your own now.
Yes.
What are your thoughts in terms of helping the companies here, stay relevant during these turbulent times?
So when I came back, I set up a company called Performatize, right? So Performatize, I built the names out of the word performance and optimize, right? So essentially the mission is essentially to get companies to, optimize the performance to become better in every way to achieve their organizational goals. And throughout that journey has been an interesting one. So moving into a lot of consulting practice in support of, in addition to that, to supporting the consulting practice with training and coaching solutions that come with learning management systems and things like this. You said the key word there, Sarah. Staying relevant. And I think that's where even in terms of my discussions and collaborations with Derek, we've been always being back and forth and understanding the principles of his apology system to keep companies to be relevant, to stay relevant. And that's really what has been my mission as well, in a way. And I think just now, so more than ever, that question is up in the air, I'll just give you a simple example. You said you spoke to, you had a chat with Derek, and you said that no MBA scholar has seen, something like this before. I'll just take a step back and say, forget MBA scholars. There are people who specialize in business continuity and disruption and scenario planning. And, there's this whole methodology along, I'm not so sure if you've heard VUCA, V-U-C-A. Volatility, uncertainty, complexity. I'm sure you've heard of this before. That entire field of VUCA really focuses on managing these kind of circumstances that a pandemic, would bring. And when we talk about volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, this is something that they were talking about before the pandemic hit. And this entire school of thought of strategy, used to look at things like scenario planning, sensing capabilities, keeping an eye out on disruption, and then trying to bring in agile practice into a business. And I'll tell you something. So I've been following this kind of methodology of thought, right, of people who specialize in this. And when the pandemic hits on this scale, there's no way they could see something like this. There's no way their remote sensing capabilities or the ability to watch market trends or look at data and things that can see something like this, And, so even, not even scholars, even the people who have been industry specialists that have just been, they eat, breathe, sleep this, are basically in a state of shock, And that's where, definitely a more resilient solution is required, basically.
Thanks, Arvind, for sharing that. Now, you're right. Look, to start off with, the world is not experiencing not yet a second wave, and it never got over the first one. And people just have to adapt to the current situation now, whatever methodologies they are placing this with. So it is entirely possible, though, for the second wave to happen. But if that does take place, then I think we're in a deeper negative effect here. So, on the 1st of February, when the day COVID-19 first appeared on our front covers, the World Health Organizations counted about 2015 new cases. And then on fast forwarding to June, its daily tally reached about 190,000. Which is alarming. So really, all hands are on deck here. All companies, all owners, they are all hands-on in terms of running their business. So let's have the first round of questions here. Let's have Derek, the organizational scientist, start on the first round here. Yeah. Now, Derek, what is your perspective on this pandemic? What does the future hold for us?
Yeah, Sarah, I wish I could answer that. I mean, we don't know.